I'd like to welcome everyone that will be coming to this webinar today. My name is Ryan White over here at Weave. We are pleased to welcome Dr. Sam Bakuri. I've had several conversations with Sam over the last couple of months, and I absolutely love his business acumen and his marketing savviness. A little bit about Sam that I want to, Dr. Bakuri, I want to mention is that he is the owner of Pittsburgh Dental Implants and Periodontics, and he's been practicing for over 19 years in dentistry. He is board certified periodontist and dental implant surgeon and obtained his DMD from the University of Pennsylvania. He is the chairman of the chairman of the marketing committee at IADS, that's the International Association of Dental Specialists, and the director of Pittsburgh Institute of Dentistry at the Educational Institute. And he currently works with the Seattle Study Club and the ITI Study Clubs and hygienist study clubs in helping build their marketing and dental acumen. He's also assistant professor at the University of Pittsburgh. I can keep going on, Dr. Bakuri. There's a lot of them on here, but I would like to thank you for taking the time today. And I give the time over to you to teach everyone how to fill those holes in your practice.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to go over things that's definitely going to benefit every single dental practitioner. My name is Sam Bakuri, and I'm a periodontist in Pittsburgh suburbs. This is my Instagram account. Please add me if you have any. If you want to communicate with me, you can message me through Instagram. You will see my Instagram key throughout the presentation. So please go ahead and add me, and I will also publish some practice management tips that will be beneficial for you. Today, we're going to talk about marketing, and marketing is a puzzle. And today, we're going to address one piece of the puzzle. If you don't understand that puzzle of marketing, if you don't see all the pieces of that puzzle, it's very hard for you to have a successful practice. When you look at marketing, it's an ocean. There is Google, there is Instagram, there is Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, pay per click, you name it. There's so many venues. And if you don't know how to manage small things in your practice before you go into spending dollars in marketing venues, you're going to be burned out. Ask me, how do I know about this? Because I have done it all. I learned the hard way. You can see here I had a movie theater ad. I have a customized magazine. I'm in community days in my area. You can see I have even like a fridge magnets, small ads in local magazines. I've done it all. What I realized over the years is that before you start going into marketing, you have to understand that you have to fix the holes in the bucket of your practice before you start pouring marketing dollars into this. What I mean by this is you have to start thinking differently. Look at, you have to be the 1%. And the 1% basically do what the other 99% doesn't do. So what do I mean by this? In marketing, there are two theories. There's the red ocean versus blue ocean theory. The red ocean is where everyone is practicing. This is where you want to market, you pick the phone and call a marketing company and say, I want to spend $5,000. And they're going to do the exact same things that every single dentist in town is doing. So if you expect a different results, it's not going to work most of the time. So you have to be the 1%. And what the 1% does is all what the other people doesn't do. So let me take you back into the marketing. Back in the early 2000, when direct to patient marketing, like online marketing, become a really famous thing. The idea of behind that was you're gonna contact a company and they're gonna do an ad, and the ad will consist of search engine marketing and then some social media, and that will generate some leads, and then leads will generate new patients. When we start doing that, we find out that you spend so much dollars on marketing, but you don't get a lot out of it. So you call the marketing company and you start having fights with them and saying, I spent all these dollars, I didn't get even one patient out of it. They look at you and they said, it's not our fault. We generate so many leads, but these people don't show up to the appointment. And then most of people, what they do is they found the scapegoat and they use the M word, and the M word is the millennials. So they blame it all on the millennials, and they think that because the patients are millennials, they don't show up to appointments and things like that. What we realized after the years is that there is a completely different approach about marketing. The funnel for marketing was way more involved than what we thought at the beginning. Before you start any marketing plan, you have to have a vision. You have to have a team that is responsible for the marketing. You have to have a team meeting. You have to have a consultant that's going to do your marketing, which is the marketing company. And you have to have an action plan. And you have to put all these things together. And then you're going to create an ad. And when you create an ad, the ad will generate leads. And then the leads, what they're going to do, which is the most crucial part in the marketing funnel, is they're going to pick the phone and make a phone call, and that phone call will lead to a new patient. So what we learned over the years from research is that 70% of mobile searches end up calling a business from an ad that appear in a search. So the ultimate goal for any ad is for people to pick the phone and make a phone call. What we also learned from research is that a front desk have a few seconds to impress the prospect patients before the patient decide to hang up. I'll tell you, when I started doing online marketing in 2015, and there was incidents where the phone call with the patients last for 6 seconds. The patient called and asked, "Do you take blah 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 insurance?" We say no. He said thank you, and he hang up. So if you cannot impress the patients in the first few seconds, you will lose these patients. 87% new calls are directed to voicemail, put on hold, never called back, or not appropriately greeted. That's the biggest problem we deal with as a dentist. How many patients come in to you and say, I called twice, nobody called me back? How many calls you get after hours from patients that said, I called and someone told me that they're going to call you back, they never called me, or I called, I left a voicemail, nobody called me back? Another important statistics is that 86% of customers are willing to pay 25% more if they have a positive customer service experience. So start thinking about it this way. If you train your front desk to be efficient and effective, if you have enough people in your front desk that they can pick the phone, greet the patients nicely, answer their questions, and schedule them, patients are willing to pay more. So you're willing to invest more in your team to have a team that can absolutely deliver the quality of service you're looking for. So what we start learning in the marketing funnel is there is a big valve here, and the big valve is on the phone call. So if you don't understand how you can manage the phone call, or you don't even answer them, you're gonna lose all these marketing money. So for every thousand of dollar you put into marketing, you will get about 10% to 5% because you wasted so much in the missed calls opportunities. That's why marketing company are very smart, and they start thinking about it, and they start doing something like closing institute, front desk scheduling, marketing consulting. They start training your team to answer the phone in a better way because they know that their success is in your hands. If you don't answer the phone in a good way, they will not succeed in delivering a good marketing campaign. So I was in a meeting in Toronto, Canada, and one of the marketing companies present this concept, and they talk about the national average percentage of missed calls in dental offices. And, I looked at the numbers and I was really shocked. So I texted my office manager who was sitting across the hall and I said, "What do you think about these numbers?" And she responded, "Definitely not our office." The number that this guy presented was a little scary because he said 35% of calls into dental offices are missed. So imagine, third of the patients that call your offices don't have anyone to answer them. I'm not talking about the 86% are not appropriately graded or went to void or put on hold. I'm talking about missed calls. Third of the calls that comes to your dental office are missed. When I asked my office manager, she said, "Definitely not us." When we came back, I was like, this is crazy. I really need to look at this missed opportunities. So I start working with Weave. And the things that I like about Weave is the way they can sort things. So when you look in their app, you can see the percentage of answered versus missed call. And you can see, and it's all color coded. You can see the calls that come from existing patients or non patients. You can also look at the volume of calls versus missed calls, and you can see the missed calls per hour and see if there is any discrepancy, and I will show you my data and you will learn a lot of things from that. What you also can see is tracking the numbers. So each of your front desk have a phone and you can name it based on that person. So you can see the productivity of each front desk person. And you can also assign phone number for a marketing campaign. So for call tracking, I know that this phone number coming from the magazine that I have. So I'm gonna see how many times it rings. This phone number is for like, your movie theater ad. This is for your TV advertisement. This is for your magazine. This is for pay per click. So you can, see the marketing venue and understand how effective you're doing with each one of them. So when we come after that meeting, what I did, and that was like before COVID, January of 2020, when I first started tracking my phone calls. The first month I tracked this, we had it over 2,500 phone calls, and look at my missed calls, 35%. I was spot on, right with the national average. You know, less than a month before that, my office manager said, "No way, there is no way we can miss third of the calls that come into our office." When I present this data to them, they said, well, we have to dig deep to see how many calls happen during the work hours. So I went and tried to dissect this to see in depth, find out that there is 10 phone calls after 5 p.m. I cannot do anything about this. This is after hours. But there's also 47 calls that happen before 8 a.m. The thing that I didn't know is that people are actually calling during their morning commute to make their dental appointments. They're driving, they're heading downtown, they're stuck in traffic, they start remember all the things that they have to do, and they remember they have to make a dental appointment. They pick the phone, they want to call your office, but nobody answers it. So when we take all these calls out of the equation, we find out that the actual missed calls percentage was 32, pretty close to the national average. In February, we had about 2,200 phone calls. We missed 20%. Now you have to understand logically, your missed calls number gonna go down as the number of the phone calls dropped, but we are still at 20% missed calls. When we looked at the numbers, we had 27 phone calls before 8 a.m. You have to understand this. We have more missed calls before 8 a.m. than missed calls after 5 p.m. So the before 1 hour, this is like 7 to 8 o'clock, is way more valuable than all the hours from 5 until midnight or until the next day of work. This is very, very, very crucial and very important. So COVID hit, and then we restructured our team, and you can see here, I have like this my office manager in the middle, and then I have these four nice ladies answering the phone. We come back in May after COVID, and we had, like it was like a half a month, and we had 1,900 calls, and we missed 13%. What we did after COVID is I learned my lesson, and I start answering the phone at 7:40. By doing that, by answering the phone at 7:40, I dropped the amount of missed calls, into 10. Now remember, we were dealing with 47. Now we had only 10 this month because we start answering the phone at 7:40. So our actual rate in May was 10%. What I did is I hired Kara, and Kara lives in Florida, and she was out of state. And, Kara didn't live here, didn't work in the office, but I realized that the importance of hiring a front desk that doesn't work in the office and how effective that can be. And I will show you the data that Kara put in 1 year on how many phone calls she answered versus someone that sits in the office. And the rationale behind that is when you have a dedicated person to answer the phone that is outside the office, they're not going to be interrupted by the check-in, check-out. A lot of our hygiene patients are retired, and the dental visit is the highlight of their day. So when they finish their hygiene visit, they would love to have a chit chat with the front desk. They show the front desk the pictures from their last Disney trip or the picture of the new grandkid they have. And this is all time that they're going to spend with your front desk that your front desk will not answer the phone. The person that doesn't work in the office does not have all these interruptions, and she will be very effective in answering the phone. So in September of 2020, after COVID, our phone numbers start jumping 2,800. We missed 4%. I want you to look at this number. This is bigger than the number of the first month I tracked, which was 2,500. 2,500 and look at the missed calls, 4% only. We went to October, we are at 6%, and we jumped into a different league, which is the over 3,000 phone calls a month. When we looked at January of 2021, we're 8% missed calls, 3,200. You have to understand when you are in the league of over 3,000 phone calls a month in a 4-day office, you're talking about the phone rings once or twice every minute. When I start looking at this data and analyze it, I realize that the numbers of the missed calls went below 10%. But I also realized something, that there is this belly hump in that curve, and it happens around lunchtime. So one of the biggest mistakes a lot of dental offices do is they put their phone, the service on during lunch. A lot of patients would love to make phone call during lunch because this is when they remember that they have to book their appointments. You cannot put the service on during lunch and expect to have an efficient and effective system in the office. So what we did is I sat with my front desk and I said, walk me through our process. What do we do? And what they said is one person stay and everyone else goes to lunch. And this is absolutely wrong because one person cannot answer this. So what we did is we assigned 30 minutes of lunch to each person. So at any given time, there is one, maximum two people at lunch while everyone else is answering the phone. If you have a smaller office, make sure no more than one person is going to lunch during that lunch hour, and people can take lunch either early or late and alternate between days to avoid this. Because you can see that despite the fact that I missed less than 10%, but the majority of these missed calls happen around lunchtime. So you have to be careful with when you plan for time for lunch. So we start to change this, and now with the new data that we got, and this is the last 5 months, you can see in November we are at 2,800 phone calls, and this is the amount of phone calls we missed. And then when we jumped into December, we're still 6% and of 2,300. And then in January, and December and January are usually a slower months for us because I take the last week of December and the first week of January off, and so the phone doesn't ring as much because the office is closed. But guess what? We're still below 10%. In February, we had 7% missed calls, and in March, which is a busy month, we still have 7%, despite the fact that we had 3,400 phone calls. So on average, between 2,300 to 3,400 phone calls a month, we are still missing about 6 to 7%. And this is consistent, and this is pretty good for our office. Then when I look at my data for an entire year from April 1st of 2021 into April 1st of 2022, I see that my office missed about 6% of the calls. So on a span of 1 year, we were very effective since we start implementing systems, and we reduced the amount of missed calls to way beyond 10%. So we are now at the average for 1 year is 6%. Compare this to 35%. I will tell you, there's a lot of things that unforeseen when you start dealing with this system. A lot of the calls that happen after hours is because the patient called during the hours and nobody answered it. So what I did after I get Weave and I had an effective system, I canceled my after hour service because now with Weave, the patients just texted me. If I get a text message, sorry, from Weave, if the patient leave a voicemail, and this is rarely happen because my office is very effective in handling all these phone calls during working hours that I don't need to deal with it after hours. Another data that I want to show you is you will see that the missed calls during the entire year, they are pretty consistent. My office hours now are 7 to 4, and I close at 4 p.m. This way, my staff can enjoy a little bit of sunshine during the day and go for a walk or something. But you will see that by the hour we close and still at 1 p.m., those are the spikes, but they are not way different. And you have to understand that this is the stats of an entire year. The one of the issues that we start facing is the front desk knows that I'm looking at the data every single day to see how many missed calls. So they take one phone call and jump to the other one. So they start to collect less information from each patient. And some patients say important things, but we don't catch it because they were jumping from one phone call to the other. So we developed something. This is I will give the credit to Act Dental. They call it the high five, and this is my high five. When the patient call, I want to make sure I know their name. I want to know who referred them, what they refer them for, and pre-medication if they are taking blood thinner or something like that, and the pain level. Now remember, I'm a periodontist. A lot of cases that I see are emergency extractions. Those are a lot of the phone calls that happen. So this is my own high five. You have to develop your own high five. And why I say that? Because one of the things that we've opened my eyes to is the length of the phone calls that your front desk spend with patients. So you will see that there are like 40 minutes phone calls. I will tell you that there is no patient in the world that's worth 45 minutes of my front desk time, because a lot of these patients are just want to have a story. They want to talk to the front desk. They're going to just dance around the same questions, tell them life stories, and that is absolutely fine from a human standpoint. You have to listen to people, but there is a business, and you're missing so many phone calls. You're stuck on this, and then you're going to end up the phone call without collecting the important information. So what you have to do is develop your high five in your practice. What are the most important information that I want to get out of the patients when they call? So when the call comes in, your front desk have a goal to collect this information first, and you have a template in your system. So when the patient calls in, they punch in all this information, and then they listen to the patient. So even if the phone call goes off tangent and take a longer time, they still collected all the necessary information. Because I will tell you, my front desk, I look at their phone calls and I will tell them, you spent 40 minutes talking to these patients. What happened? Guess what? They didn't schedule. This is absolutely very common. Remember, I told you that I have a front desk that live in Florida, and I wanted to see how effective she is in getting all these phone calls and managing them. And I look at her data. Now I have to look at 1 year, so we are still in April. I wish I could have May to May. Um, because big part of April she was on maternity leave. But this is my data of my office during the 1 year from April 1st of 2021 to April 1st of 2022. And you will see Kara is the number one in the office of answering the phone call. As a matter of fact, Julie, who's the second person, start working part-time at home because she is way more effective there than here, and she doesn't get interrupted. But you can see that Kara, that works from home, was able to answer about 700, almost 700 phone calls more than the very next person, and on average, about over 1,000 phone calls than any other front desk person. So if you take her maternity leave time and accommodate for that, she answered 1,000 phone call more than the next front desk system person. So you have to understand that hiring someone that works from home can be absolutely very effective. How did I change the numbers from 35% to 4%? Very simple. We work on accountability. I was listening to a radio interview with the CEO of Weight Watchers, and they asked him why we should participate with Weight Watchers. We can buy the food from any grocery store and we can do it ourselves. And he said, you can absolutely do that. When you join Weight Watchers, you're gonna come in to see us once a month. We're gonna weigh you. There's other people who participate, and we're gonna hold you accountable in front of everyone. And accountability is what makes people work more effectively. Accountability will make people think twice that am I the one who's screwing up? Am I the one who's living up to the expectations? So how the accountability work every month during the office meeting, what do is we present, we have an Excel sheet, and every day we have a one person in the front desk. She is in charge of missed calls, and what she do is like about 10 minutes before we close, she look at the data and she enter it in the Excel sheet, and she have like a black and red colors. The black colors is for calls, missed calls during hours, and the red is before or after hours. So we look at everyday data, and during the office meeting, she present that to the office, and she would explain to us like, hey, on Friday we have one person answers the phone. This is not enough. We have to increase that because we're missing a lot of opportunities. We have to start early. We have to finish late. We're gonna, make sure that we handle that, and every single person in my office knows how many missed calls we missed during the last month and where we're going to be. And that absolutely helps drop my average from 35% to about 6%. With Weave, there's a lot of missed opportunities that you can avoid by having the system, because when you go in details of that, Weave can absolutely help you track this with a very easy app that can provide you with all the necessary information. So, what is the missed opportunities you have? Let me walk you through this scenario. If you missed 100 calls a month, and in a good dental office, your conversion rate is 70%. So out of these 100 calls, 70 of them show up as a new patient or a new possible opportunity. It could be an existing patient who have something, and they called your office, but your office doesn't pick up, so they call the second person. That's also a missed opportunity. So out of 100 calls, if you convert 70% of them, that's a 70 new possible opportunities. If you convert 70% of these 70 new opportunities into $1,000 treatment, this is the cheapest thing in a dental office, a crown, $1,000. $1,000 treatment, 70% of them, you're talking about 70,000 per month. You're talking about almost $500,000 of missed opportunities from fixing the holes in your practice bucket by addressing the issues with your phone only. But what happened when the person on the other line is a millennial? And that's absolutely a new, game in town, because 93% of these new calls, they don't leave a voicemail. If you have a teenager at your house, you will see a lot of these teenagers does not like to make phone calls. They don't like talking. They love texting. So if the phone call is missed, they're not going to leave a voicemail. So if you go to your front desk and say, I heard this guy on a Weave webinar, and he was saying that an average dental office misses 35% of the phone calls, and they're going to look at you and say exactly like what my office manager said. Absolutely not our office. And if we miss the phone calls, we're going to call them. But guess what? Most of these calls doesn't even leave a voicemail. So how are you going to avoid this? Special thanks to Weave, they come up with this service. There is, this fake number that they can, like they attach it to your software. Now, this is the fake number that I had. They can do it on your own office number. But the service, what it does is, if you call this number, any number, like the office number, and we don't pick up, what's going to happen is you're not going to go to voicemail. You will get a text message, and the text message will say, this is ours. Hi, this is Ashley. I'm currently helping another patient, but can be back with you in 3 to 5 minutes. Or you can text me back here. How can I help you? I want you to think about this. Now we are avoiding losing this market segment of patients that call in and don't leave a voicemail. So if the patient leave a voicemail, your front desk can call them back. If the patient doesn't leave a voicemail, now we are chatting with them. I will tell you, when we start activating the service, it was absolutely helpful. There was a 70% increase in the response from the missed calls after we start activating the text messaging service. And I think you can have it on all the phone lines in the office, so you don't have to have a specific phone number for it. So let's wrap this up. Less than 10% of missed calls is acceptable. Front desk should obtain as much information as possible from the new patients. You develop your own high five, and you make sure your front desk follow it. Don't kill yourself. Less than 10% is absolutely acceptable, absolutely fine. I will tell you, there are patients that actually you don't want call them back because the concern, the question is something that either you cannot do or something that you don't want to deal with. So less than 10% is absolutely something acceptable. And then now you're going to activate the text messaging service. So if you can text someone and they respond, that's fine. If they don't respond, all missed calls should be called or texted back the same day. So if they leave a voicemail, try to call them. If they don't respond, try to text them to initiate a conversation. This is my data. I think after looking at a lot of dental offices and being involved with giving a lecture about practice management for over 7 years, I can tell you that each well-trained front desk person can handle about 600 phone calls. What do I mean by this? If your office averages over 2,000 phone calls and you have two front desk, you don't have to go and spend $5,000 with a marketing company. You're going to fail because even when they generate leads, you don't have the staff to answer these phone calls. So you absolutely going to need to hire a front desk person first to make sure that you can manage the phone calls and you drop your number below 10% before you start investing in marketing. Monthly evaluation of phone call is a must to improve performance because accountability is definitely what work. And the last thing I want to tell you about these points is millennial mindset has overtaken popular culture. And what do I mean by this? There is very few things that our parents, our grandparents learned from our parents when our parents were our age. So there's very few things that my dad decided to do because he see me doing it and he think it's too cool because he belongs to a different generation. When the millennials comes in, they change the culture of everything. They teach us how to use cell phones, text messages, use short words. When I grow up, there is nothing called LOL. Now this become the very common thing. So you have to understand that that you have to be keep up with the game and you have to activate the text message service because this is the nature of the game. 93% of the upcoming calls will not leave a voicemail. So in a nutshell, what I want to tell you is in order to have an effective system, you have to make sure that you have accountability, you have to have the manpower to do it, and you have to get Weave because they're absolutely going to make your life easy. The last message I want to give you is if you want to be part of the 1%, you can live like the 99%. If all the 99% don't check their phone, don't have access to the systems, they just let go and don't want to think about it, and you want to be the 1%, you have to do things differently. My name is Sam Bakuri, and again, this is my Instagram account, and I will be happy to answer all your questions. Thank you.
Dr. Curry, we thoroughly enjoyed having you on there, and more especially, we are grateful you shared your own numbers. It's one thing to talk about numbers on a national average, but to really, as you said, take that national average and see how does this apply to my practice? How does this apply to me and my business? And you're able to see and compare that and share those results with other people to help them grow. Very beneficial. And if you have additional questions for Dr. Bakuri on some of the other methods in which he uses to become more efficient, how he tackled the conversation of hiring someone outside of his office to take the phone calls. He loved talking to you about that. I've talked to him many times over this topic. You can reach him at Instagram at @sbakuri. It's one of his preferred methods of communication. So once again, Dr. Bakuri, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.